Okay, y'all, so this is gonna be a little interactive, so I want everyone to take a big breath in through your nose and exhale, relax your shoulders. I'm not good enough. I'm not important. I'm not safe. These are some of the negative core beliefs that I developed growing up. Let's take another big breath in and exhale. This time, relax your jaw. So this isn't the first time I've told my story. And I have to be real, it was kind of difficult trying to figure out how to tell it this time. Primarily because I never told the full story. I am, sis, okay? You know. I never told the full story. So I'm gonna start this out how I normally tell my story. So my father died by suicide. I was the one that found him. And at the age of 19, I had to plan his funeral. And then I almost attempted to do the same.
Oh my God.
And you know, a lot of people say I tell that part of my story and it kind of sounds like I'm ordering a pizza, like I'm that calm about it. And I get it, and that's because I've normalized it, right? Just like any other illness, right? If it's left untreated, it can result in death. In fact, suicide is the 11th leading cause of death amongst Black people and people of color. So it's more common than we think. And then when you have a parent that dies that way, you're 3 times more likely to pass that way as well. So let's take another big breath in and exhale. And then when you start to add the generational and systematic things, it gets kind of complicated, right? So I'm from Texarkana, Texas, TK, the 903, okay? I'm a little country girl from a twin city where they say it's twice as nice. However, crimegrade.org states that a violent crime happens in Texarkana every 4 hours and 27 minutes. I know. Let's take another big breath in and exhale. So when people hear my story about my dad, they often think that's like the big climax, the turning point. And don't get me wrong, it was a low point. But often, it's the smaller things that affect us more than the big thing. Because when it comes to these big traumatic events, everybody around you notice it as abnormal. And we tend to get the support we need, which I did. However, it's the smaller things that we look over in our community that we deem as normal, like maybe not seeing your parents for a while because they're working to put food on the table, or maybe getting like a lot of whoopings. We normalize those things, but those are the things that really affects our core beliefs. Right. So let's take a big breath in and exhale. So truth is, the numbers, not really on my side. Statistically, I'm not supposed to be here, but the math not mathing for me because I'm here, okay? I'm a therapist. I'm a therapist. I'm a yoga teacher, and I own my own wellness and therapy practice where I help others who struggle with the same thing that I did. I'm doing well for myself, child. So well, where when I see people who I knew back then, they're like, dang, Devyn, you glowed up. And you know, I can take a compliment, I know I look good. But just because I know how to beat my face now, I may know how to put it on, and I may have filled out my little frame. That doesn't even equate to even half the work that I had to do to be here right now. So don't call it a glow up. My bad, y'all. I get a little turned up sometimes. Let's reset. Big breath in and exhale. So tonight, I'm gonna give y'all the real tea. And I'm gonna tell y'all how I cultivated a space for joy and pain. So when people hear my dad's story, they often think that my dad and I were very close. And don't get me wrong, we act just alike, child. Literally twins, okay? What they say, twin, where you been? That was me and him, okay? But unfortunately, I only met him maybe like the second or third time, 3 years before he passed. So that made his death that much more complicated for me. It's not really the manner that he passed. It was more so that he left again. So it's just in my head, I was just telling myself, like, the audacity of you to come back around just to leave again, you know? Getting a little irritated. Let's take another big breath in and exhale. So let's take it back. So growing up, it was me, my mom, my sister, and my grandma. Unfortunately, my grandpa wasn't around because he was in prison due to a nonviolent crime, another generational thing, right? And it was just us. But I remember that time of my life being like one of the best times of my life. I had the little barrettes, the little plaits. My granny used to take my little bones out my fish. I remember all the little details, right? We had a good time. Then eventually things changed. So we ended up moving out from our grandma's, and my siblings started to deal with their own mental struggles. And as a result of that, my mom also started to struggle with depression as well. All of it undiagnosed, of course. We didn't know what it was back then. We just thought we had bad nerves, right? So that's what we thought was going on. But now as a therapist, I recognize it, right? So because of that, because I was like more of the independent one, I was like, I just kind of lay low and I try to stress my mama out so much. But eventually, I developed the negative core belief that I wasn't important because of that. And, between that, school, the community violence, what happened with my dad, eventually I started to develop a lot of anger and resentment. And a lot of people just thought I had a bad attitude. Maybe it was, child, I don't know. But from there, I realized that anger and resentment actually played a big role in my journey. And a lot of times we think emotions are bad, right? But emotions actually help us. They help guide our intuition. They help us make decisions. They help motivate our behaviors. So they serve a purpose. So it's important to hold space for all emotions, even the ones that are negative. Let's take a big breath in and exhale. So in my adulthood, because of the core beliefs that developed, those things carried over into my adulthood. So let me put you on a quick mental health tip real quick. This is what you learn in therapy. So your thoughts impacts your emotions impacts your behaviors, and your behaviors impacts your reality. So if you're able to change your thoughts, then eventually you can change your reality. But the thing is, our thoughts are based on our core beliefs, what we develop in childhood. So you have to reconstruct all those things, right? And I started to figure that out when I was in school. I was like, okay, if 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8, then this adds up. The math is math in there, right? So I started to work on those things. I started to recognize the difference in the mind-body connection and how what you think will affect you physically. I started to recognize the difference between emotions and feelings. And emotions is our mind part. It's our body's physical response. And feelings is how we cognitively make sense of our emotions. So you may feel sad, that's the emotion, but the feeling is you're disappointed. I'm putting y'all on game, okay? I'll send the invoice later, okay? So from there, I recognized, okay, so if I can biohack my nervous system, let me namaste and, warrior and all these things so I can ground myself. And it did help, but I was only doing half of the work. Let's take another big breath in and exhale. So that's when the bigger picture came into play. That's when I recognized I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I actually did the work. I started to create routines that aligned with the beliefs that I wanted to have. So I started doing all the exercise things. I started spending more time with God. I started spending more time outside. I started practicing gratitude. I did all those things to create evidence for these positive beliefs that I wanted. I had to live the life I wanted in order to get the life that I wanted. Okay? So that's when I recognized pain. You have the option as humans, we are going to experience pain. We can't avoid that. But you do have the option to suffer. And I decided not to suffer. So it's kind of like an Uno game, right? So boom, you playing with your partner. They throw down, draw 4. You're going to be like, dang, it's like that? You may talk your little mess, but you're going to pick up your cards and you're going to play the hand that you was dealt with. You're not going to throw them cards down and start windmilling the air. Are you going to do that? No, you're going to play the cards. And that's exactly what I did. I had to live the life that I wanted to create. So my core beliefs changed from I'm not important to I am valuable, to I am not safe, to I am protected. And I cultivated space for joy and pain. So that's why I say, don't call it a glow up, period. Okay? In order to be that girl, I had to become that girl. Okay, now everybody take a big breath in and close your eyes, place both of your hands on your chest and repeat after me. I am important. I am worthy. And I am safe. Thank you.